This session is with Sally Knight and Harriet Denning-Kemp. It's on when standard equipment is no longer enough. I'd just like to give you a little bit of detail around that. So Huntington's disease presents evolving challenges for occupational therapists managing seating and sleep systems. As motor control, postural stability, and cognition deteriorate, standard equipment often becomes inadequate. This session explores how OTs identify critical transition points and make proactive, well-researched equipment decisions. Practical examples of Huntington's specific equipment, the design and illustration by OT assessment and collaborative prescription together make a difference in a person's plan. So welcome and thank you for coming with us this afternoon, Sally and Harriet.
No, I'll just step off once. Yeah. Okay. Hi everyone, my name's Harriet. And before we start, if you are able to, everyone stand up. Everyone stand up. Okay, I want you to give yourself a big shake out. Big shake out, get us all awake again. Let's go. All right, cool, sit back down now. We only have a certain amount of time, right? Cool, all right. So my name is Harriet. I am the principal occupational therapist at, sorry, one moment, that's NDIS calling, and I'm just going to have to say, call me back. Sorry about that. Always happens when we start presenting things that NDIS like to contact OTs. So my name's Harriet. I am the principal and lead occupational therapist at Everybody Rehab, which is a boutique allied health company in southeast Queensland. I see people with Huntington's disease up from the Sunshine Coast, down to the Gold Coast and everywhere in between. I will travel to where a client needs me because there's not many of us up in Queensland that can actually support people with Huntington's disease. And this is Sally, by the way, and she'll be doing things a bit later on. Sorry.
What is it?
It's my phone, sorry. So we have heard a lot from, thank you Alex and Tim, that I'm going to be presenting on also, but I'm just going to change the script slightly and talk anecdotally about what I see with clients. So many people with Huntington's disease has already seen a lot of specialist equipment, whether that be from their friends, family members, and like brothers, cousins, aunts, everything. And so they have you have a bit of an idea about what kind of specialist equipment is out there. And so I really see my job as an occupational therapist, not to just prescribe that equipment for you, but to change the narrative around what that equipment means to you. Because with some cases, standard equipment will fail at times, and the question is, what do we do and how do we make ourselves more prepared for that? And I think around that, there is a lot of fear around some of this equipment that we will be showing, and so it's to really open up that conversation and make it a bit more human about how we chat to people about it in the first place and introduce it to them. So I always like to have a bit of a conversation with clients and plant the seed really early and seeing them about what we need to plan for the future. And I like to say things like, I want to make sure that we have things in place for you. So when the future does happen, we've got funding. Everyone knows in this room that funding can be very limited and take time to get equipment manufactured, approved, the money in people's plans and the money for people to actually have this equipment. So it's really thinking as a therapist about how we can actually get this money in the plan before we really need it. And connect to a client about what they actually know about this equipment. So it's having those open conversations with somebody around equipment and just planting the seed. They may not need it and they may not need it in the future, but it is planting the seed around what kind of equipment or assistive technology that somebody needs. I really like to separate equipment from decline. I really like as an OT to go, hey, with this piece of, say, a wheelchair, it means that you can get out in the community and go to have a coffee, go to the movies, and spending more time on what you love to be able to do instead of reframing it from that loss and giving more enablement to somebody to be able to do things. And take it in small steps. So I never do huge reveals, I never give a lot of information all at once, because at that point somebody may be grieving their diagnosis and taking it step by step is a really easy way to plant that seed. And you may not get a yes straight away. It may take up to a year sometimes to get a yes to even trial a piece of equipment, but it's just constantly having those conversations when you can. Oh, sorry. So having the conversation in a human way. I'm just going to share a text message that I actually sent to one of my clients. Now, she is a young 30-year-old, beautiful girl who I've spent over a year building a rapport with, and she has really not wanted to focus on any allied health input, any equipment. She wants to live her life as a 30-year-old. She wants to be able to go out with her friends. And by the way, names have been changed in this message, so you're not going to hear it. So, hey Bonnie, it's Harriet, your OT here. I've been thinking a lot about you. I really want to come out and see you in the next few weeks, not to stress you out, but just for a quick visit. I want to make sure your support workers have the right things to help look after you and insert name 3-year-old son. I also heard that you would like to start to look at a house in the area that is more appealing to you, have better access to your friends and social life, etc. Your NDIS plan is coming up for review, and I need to take a few things off so your funding stays in place. I'd hate for you to lose anything. Can we find a time that works for you in the next few weeks? I'm happy to come to you at any time, and I'll keep it short and easy. I promise. Let me know. Now, for Bonnie, I haven't been able to get time with her for the last 6 months because she's really rejected equipment. We've had injuries, we've had hospitalisations, we've had issues go on, and it's, I guess for me it's having that conversation the human way, letting them come to us also, and taking some time for people to adjust to how we talk about equipment and when they need it. This person needed the equipment a year ago, but it's been a long time coming, and so with that message, because I spoke to her on what a 30-year-old would look at it like, she was able to actually she texted me a love heart, but she actually called me that weekend also and chatted to me about it. So it was a really great way for me to be able to interact with this client. So what I do say is, and I'm happy to share any of these slides because I'm not really talking some of the slides, by the way, I'm saying to lead with curiosity as a therapist, as a service provider, and ask what a client has noticed, and acknowledge that grief and fear, the first thing. It is real and it is valid to everyone. Bring photos of equipment if you want to chat about it. Involve family members, support workers in the conversation if that's going to make it more comfortable. Focus on what stays the same, their comfort and dignity, and give permission to say no to you. So this client, she said no to me for a whole year. That's okay, try again. So why Huntington's requires specialist equipment? So when we look at it, we know that things are going on. I've seen so many times a client have a standard electric bed for so long, and then in one foul swoop they kick it, or their movements come too forceful, they kick it, and they end up with the headboard on their body overnight, or they've broken the wood at the bottom of the bed, or the electric bed is completely broken. I've seen wheelchairs be flipped. I've seen wheelchairs break under them because of movement, and that repetitive impact against standard equipment does result in entrapment risks and structural damage. So when we are looking at a client with that hyperkinetic movements and things, and we're looking at kind of the durability and to be able to support somebody in bed so that they can look after themselves, we are really looking at that specialist equipment. I currently have a client who has had several falls, including quite severe falls that have led to hospitalisation, and with that we've had to come up with a plan because she continues to sit up and forcefully move her head backwards, and it's continued to have ongoing head injuries. So we are looking at specialist equipment so we can actually support her in her bed and in her home so that she can actually live to what we need. And now the biggest thing that I do have to say is lead times for the specialist equipment. They can take 12 weeks for something to manufacture, and then maybe 12 weeks for the NDIS or funding bodies to approve. So we're looking at 24 weeks to start off with. So it's again having those conversations early. If you feel that you are not ready for it, that's absolutely fine, but it's again looking at carer safety, your safety, pressure injury risk, and that cognitive change over time. So what I know a lot in the past is around when talking to suppliers, they get really annoyed with some OTs, and OTs, therapists, whatever, because they're like, oh yeah, I've just had an email. They haven't given us any background information. They've just given us two simple measurements, and they've asked us to come out, and we're trying to guess what type of equipment somebody needs. How are we, as a person that does provide supervision to younger occupational therapists around what we need to communicate with suppliers, is they don't need to know the diagnosis, but they do need to know what we're looking at. So I talk to my occupational therapists around building a picture based on clinical reasoning as well. So doing a meta evaluation and getting all the postural measurements, how somebody's moving, and then also looking at the movement behaviour and context of it. So the courier, the behaviours, how much somebody weighs, the environmental constraints. Is the bedroom going to be too small? What's somebody's pain? And it's not just like the physical pain, but also how they're feeling, and looking at the whole picture. I often talk to clients around taking a whole lot of photos. Obviously, funding constraints with occupational therapy or any therapist in the NDIS world is that we don't actually have very many hours to spend outside. So I get the family involved, or support workers, to take photos after photos, 24 hours, and we build a little bit of a picture. A picture paints 1,000 words, and honestly, with the planners at NDIS, if you can provide that information to them, then for a picture they can actually see what's happening, and it's usually a yes before a no, because you're not having to describe it either. And I also encourage videos, and I'll just screenshot the videos and put those into reports as well. So getting all of your ducks in a row, getting a checklist done, and knowing to call your supplier before you call your supplier. So again, I have a checklist. Now I have a bit of a matrix with Huntington's disease that I use with my therapist, and I've provided to other therapists. And if you ever want it, more than happy for you to email me and I'll send it to you. And it's around kind of before the supplier call, what do we need to look at within a 24-hour period. And within a 24-hour period, somebody may be standing, they may be sitting, and they may be lying. So what does that look like, and how are we going to support those in somebody within those 3 different periods? So looking at weight and what's going on, looking at the environment, what we actually need to look at, what somebody wants as well. What you may think as a therapist that suit their needs may definitely not, because somebody may just want something very different to what your thoughts are. And being curious and asking suppliers, hey, I've seen this, this is the picture. What do you recommend? Because whilst I know the clinical side of things, suppliers often generally know what's out there with their company. So takeaways from this is to start early, do thorough investigation, acknowledge the emotional history, and standard equipment will become insufficient at times, and we do need to support them. Now I'm going to hand over to Sally. She is amazing, and she is the owner of Novacor.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Harriet. I'm not as clinical nor as smart as the beautiful Harriet over here, so I'm the actual manufacturer. I'm a little bit more silly. However, I've been around people with Huntington's since I was 19 years old. I'm a little bit older than that now. I won't let you know how old. But essentially, my company, Novacor Healthcare, was brought into Huntington's through LiveTech in Queensland to meet a beautiful lady who was in a nursing home. And it was my father that went. And when we attended the room, the poor lady had slid down her chair and was pretty much being squashed at the neck. It was then and there that we decided to really work on trying to build equipment for people with Huntington's. Not because we have family members who have HD, but solely because there was nothing out there and we actually wanted to make a difference. So a little bit different than going to your average supplier. It's just something that means well to our family. We've been within the community for many, many years. We've gone and partied with you guys. We've gone to conferences. We've gone to balls. And it's been lots of fun. And so essentially we've listened to what both occupational therapists, carers, and the clients actually need as well. We tried to look at, from a safety perspective. We looked at what it means from an emotional perspective and what works. So essentially, what didn't work in standard equipment was entrapment risk, carer safety, client safety, injury risk was a huge one. And over time, we built the NovaCore Huntington's bed and chair. Now, I know that there's no chair that is a Huntington specific chair, but we designed both the bed and chair based on what people with Huntington's actually need. And it's a bed and chair that's supposed to progress through the whole condition, whether that means early stages where they're just using it as a standard sit-to-stand chair or comfortable chair, or going along with the progression to ensure that they're safe as they need. So I'll move through our bed. If the person at the back could just press play. Yeah, just because I've got a slideshow, I'm not that good with IT. I thought it would play automatically, but it didn't. Okay, so the NovaCore Nova Protect Huntington's bed is essentially a high-low bed with both head and leg elevation, as you do with your normal beds. However, we've surrounded this one with a padded protective side rails and headboard. With electronic side rails. So at the touch of just one button and one hand control, you're able to move the side rails independently. Did you have a question? I'm deaf, so. Okay. The goal of the bed is to be completely entrapment proof. So you can't get any further than your knuckles down the edges of the bed, and to be completely injury proof. Now, working with Harriet since many years ago, we've actually done a bit of an in-service where Harriet tested it to its absolute limits, and she was not able to hurt herself nor break the bed, sorry. The bed comes in 3 different ways. So we do have an early stage, which has more of a square set side rail. It's slightly lower and a flat mattress, so you can have easy transfers. Then it moves to the midsection where you have your flat mattress, and one side is flat rail, and the other side is slightly higher rounded rail. You'll be able to see that throughout the pictures. And then the late stage, which is the rounded rails that are more padded. Now, the best thing about this is it can be interchangeable, and because we build things here in Australia, we're able to get that out quickly to you. It does come with a 3-layer pressure prevention mattress. However, we can go into an alternating mattress if you need. What we do find is that it doesn't really need it if you're utilising the bed correctly, though, until it gets to more of your end-of-life care. The bed is $20,000. It comes in lots of different sizes. It'd be very surprised, but the smaller the bed, the more comfortable you are. So it helps with anxiety. It helps with being calm and knowing that you're surrounded and you're safe. Did I go too far? No. So I've spent many years seeing people out in the road and things like that. So what I've found is, the bed being smaller, it stops them twisting and turning throughout the bed, and it also builds that comfort. You would think it would be more like trapped and you feel unsafe, but instead it actually makes people more calm. Now onto the chair. Could you please press that button? So my chair is a little bit different than your standard recliner chairs. It does come with your full tilt and space and has the extended armrest. It is completely entrapment proof and injury proof. The best thing about the chair, like I said, it can progress with you, so you can choose for it to be on the floor, just like a normal recliner, and then you can add different types of wheels depending on what you're utilising it for. Bit of a backstory is you'll see some pictures throughout this. I had he wasn't quite young, a man that had been in his bedroom for about 5 years, and he got washed in the bedroom, he got his hair cut in the bedroom, and as you see throughout the photos, you'll actually see he was able to leave, and we took him for a haircut. So the chair is a little bit more versatile. It is really comfy, and so comfort is really important with reducing careers. I went and did a trial, multiple trials throughout Sydney about 6 months ago, and they were all Huntington's chairs, surprisingly. So I did a little bit of a test. People range from early stages to late stages, and I just wanted to see how many people liked the chair and what their response was. And nearly every single person begged not to get out of it by the end, because comfort is really important, and then the career reduced when they were sitting in it. Here's my friend, and he's getting his haircut. And as it goes as well, we can raise the sit to stand to suit you guys. Colour is also your choice, so we try and make it as easy as possible for acceptance of the equipment, and obviously custom made if you need to. Really important working with your OT. So like Harriet said, is getting an understanding of your client, but also getting an understanding of the equipment. Now, I have been doing this for a long time, and so has the OT. The OT knows the clinical side, but I do know the manufacturing side. So it's really educating yourself and your OT, or asking your OT to really contact us or any supplier just to get a better understanding of what they can do. And that's not just for scripting, that's just not initial purchase, that is over time. So, hey, we've had a change. This person's now struggling to swallow, and we really want to continue to feed them in the chair. What is your recommendations? And essentially, it's showing them how to sit them forward, separate that padding so that they're really upright, and we can do all that. It's just a matter of having the conversation. We do find that a lot of occupational therapists don't continue that conversation, and so they deem equipment not suitable later on, but essentially it's because their lack of education is there. But we're always here. We are on the Sunshine Coast, and we're wanting to help. We wanted to continue to be part of the community. That's why I'm here today. And I have clients that have had my equipment for 15 years or are still calling me. So any questions, please let me know. It's not too late or not too early to do a trial. It's call us anytime. Call Harriet if you need. But thank you. I would love to take any questions that you have. Go for it. Oh, the cost of the chair is $8,980. Australia-wide. So we don't do trials in WA, we don't do them down here in South Australia, like physical trials. Not at the stage, but we do them all down the East Coast. So Melbourne, Sydney, and Queensland, obviously, and anywhere in between. If you're wanting to see the equipment in South Australia or in WA, we can certainly do what we call a video trial, where we come on board, we discuss everything that happens with the chair or bed and what you're actually needing, and try and script it to suit. As I said, whether that be different side rails and so on, or whether or not we need to do something different, which is possible. We are the manufacturers of this, so we can change what you can see in these photos. If you don't want it to be as long, or you want it longer, or if you want to cut out in the side rail, we can discuss all of these things on scripting, or even if you need to change it for the future. And
I just wanted to add an OT bit to that, is the bit that I really work with Sally about with some clients is sometimes because a person is made differently, they have longer torsos, shorter legs, shorter torsos, and so some standard equipment, beds and things are made to a certain specific thing, so you have the head of the bed bending up the side of the back, and then people can't breathe properly, swallowing issues and things. So I've really worked with Novacor in the past to be able to actually measure a client's torso and had the bed made to those specifications, and that includes the chair to be made. So yes, whilst this Huntington's chair has very long arms, you don't have to have long arms. If you want larger wheels, so hoists and Serra-Steadies can get under it, it's all about having that conversation and about what you're actually looking for, because that's what customization is you're actually customizing it to your client, not just a standard piece of equipment that you see in a supply, like a showroom.
did you guys have any other questions? No? Did you want to see the photos again? I can go back. I probably ran through it too quickly. Terrible. Could you press play on that video for me again? Oh, he's moved it. You're all my friends. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, both Harriet and Sally, for coming today and for presenting for us.